So to begin with, congratulations on your award, winning the Maverick award. Very good job. And so you're based out of New York City. Did you grow up there?
I did. Spent all my life there.
Okay, cool.
Not necessarily the best place to be as a game developer from a professional standpoint, but
why would you say that?
Because New York traditionally has been a virtual desert as far as game development is concerned. It's starting to pick up now. A couple of years ago, I went to the airport to fly to GDC, and the only other person from New York on the same flight was J.C. Hertz, who's the author of Joystick Nation. I was delighted to see her. This year, there are people from Chaos Studios, from Large Animal Games, from Rockstar, all on the same flight. So it's kind of feeling like, okay, now there's a games industry in New York.
So it's starting to pick up then. Now, what was your first inspiration in getting into game design? To go all the way back to the beginning. Well, I know you've been working in game design for many years.
Yeah, so when I was a teenager, there was a publisher of tabletop board war games in New York called Simulations Publications, and I subscribed to their magazine. I liked to play war games, and they had open playtests on Friday night in which you could come in and play the games then under development, which was great for those of us who were fans of their games because we got to feel like we were participating in their creation, and good for them because they got free playtesting. And basically I hung out there and made a nuisance of myself until at one point the backroom guys tried to unionize, and the president of the company fired them all. And he hired me and a bunch of other teenagers to assemble and ship games in the back room. So I got my start in the games industry as a scab.
And how old were you at that point?
14.
Oh wow, okay, excellent. And now we know you've worked. You said you've done some work for Nokia. What do you think is the future of the mobile gaming industry?
Okay, well, I founded a mobile games company in 2000 called Unplug Games, which went out of business a couple of years later. And the reason I was interested in it at that point is that no one really had any idea what was going to work in mobile games, and I thought there was a lot of opportunity to do experimental stuff in a way that you could no longer do in the conventional market. However, at this point, 90+% of all mobile game sales are off operator decks, and what tends to work, since you've basically got one line of text to tell people about your game, are things licensed from older games like Tetris, or based on licenses from console games that are coming out at the same time. And as a result, it's even less creative and interesting an environment to work in than the conventional market.
Do you think eventually they'll be cool?
I think the only way that it can change into something more interesting is if the carrier's lock on distribution is broken, and I think they will fight tooth and nail to prevent that from happening.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Now you say as Designer X, you've written very critical words about the industry, and so what are some of the examples of the drudgery in games that you've spoken of?
Well, in terms of drudgery, I guess you'd have to talk to EA slave, EA spouse, right? I think things have gotten a little bit better over the last couple of years because publishers have gotten some bad publicity about their working habits. But it's still the case that crunch time, 60+ hour weeks, are way too common.
And now, at your company, at Manifesto Games, what kind of projects are you guys working on, and what kind of projects can we expect from you in the future?
Well, the idea behind Manifesto Games is to provide a distribution channel for independently created games.
Right.
So games typically developed by small teams or by individuals.
Right.
And in essence, we want to try to create for the games industry what independent music and independent film provide for their own industries, a path to market for more innovative product.
Kind of like what Miramax did.
Individual vision. Yeah, one of our marketing lines is that we're the independent film channel for games.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think that's actually something that's quite important to have.
Well, one of the things Warren Spector said a couple of years ago was that in the games industry we have the equivalent of Hollywood blockbusters and we have the equivalent of student films, but there's nothing in between.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to change.
Okay. So. That's actually, I think that's a really good idea. Now, who is I know you've written several science fiction novels. Who's your favorite science fiction author?
At the moment, I'm the writer whose work I look forward to most eagerly is Charles Stross, who's the author of Accelerando and a series of other works that really look at the coming singularity, the impact of rapid technological change on society. He also has a novel I like a great deal called The Atrocity Archives, which deals with the British secret agency that deals with occult phenomenon, and refers to what he calls the Lovecraft Turing equation. So computing and the Eldritch horrors have something to do with each other, which is kind of a cool concept.
What's your favorite video game of all time?
Well, I'm a strategy gamer by nature, so probably Civilization would be the answer.
Mm-hmm. And our last question for you, and it's a loaded question. What is a game anyhow?
A game is an interactive structure with goals.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to say?
I can blather on forever.
Okay.
That's
Your quote is a form of art in which participants, termed
Right.
players, make decisions in order to manage resources through game tokens in the pursuit of a goal.
Yeah. Now that comes from a piece I wrote years ago called "I Have No Words That I Must Design," which has been adopted and is taught in computer design courses, computer game design courses across the globe.
Right.
And I don't reject that description, but I think it can be boiled down to its essence there.
So do you think a video game can make a person cry?
I think many people have cried with frustration in the course of video games. And I have to say, playing Super Columbine Massacre RPG, I got pretty close to crying.
Any other games that you felt emotion?
Well, yes. The thing about... Okay, look. Many people criticize games by saying that they cannot evoke the depth and complexity of emotions that, say, film or novels can.
Right.
I would suggest that, say, while music evokes emotion, it doesn't evoke emotion in the same way or the same set of emotions that stories do.
Right.
Games, like music, do evoke a set of emotions. Some of them ones like fiero, the sense of triumph over adversity, that you have to borrow a term for another language to describe.
Which you don't really get that in cinema, right? You never really jump up and say, "Yeah, I kicked your ass."
Sometimes you do,
but you feel it much more strongly in games.
I agree. So I think it's an invalid criticism of games in essence. Games are their own thing. They do have value. They have something to say. They're not poor versions of movies. They're something else. Also, keep in mind that I don't think games necessarily have to involve storytelling. There's no story in chess. So, as with music, there are forms of music like opera or the musical or the rock and roll ballad that do tell stories. But then there are symphonic music. And things of the kind that have nothing to do with storytelling. Just as with games, there are things like role-playing games, graphic adventures that are intimately tied to story, and then there are things like strategy games that really have nothing to do with story.